Hello there, it's Sandy Allnock. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I'm having a casual day. The day I'm filming is actually Sunday, and I just finished a little while ago with my Open Studio. Open Studio is a Zoom call I do. It's free once a month with students who can ask questions about all kinds of things. We got watercolor and pencil questions today. And I also had a few things to share about things I got in the mail. Remember in my previous video, I discussed Tomoe River paper, and I had ordered a sketchbook and it had not arrived, but it did get here, of course. So we got to play with it and baptize it, making eyeballs like the ones in my new Bible journaling class. Link is in the doobly-doo to both the video and to the class if you're interested in that. I also opened a giant box that I got as part of an exchange that I made with somebody at NAMTA. And while I do the drawing, I'm going to tell you the crazy story about Dino from Joyzy. And yeah, let's do that while I do the easiest stippling drawing, the fastest stippling drawing I have ever done. Little housekeeping before I get started. If you want to see the replay of the eyeballs, then you'll have a link in the doobly-doo so you can go see the replay of the Zoom call. It's always available for 1 week. And perhaps everything you learn will inspire you to RSVP for the next Zoom call. Stipple Texture paper is what I'm going to use today from the B Paper Company. And on the cover, it shows black and white and color. I'm just going to start with black and white and figure out how this stuff works and do a drawing with it. Now, it has a texture to it, like a very serious texture, and it's not like watercolor paper. It's not soft like that. It's got more of a, I don't know, almost a wall texture. It's a little harder of a surface, but it has very definite peaks and valleys in it, and it creates that stippling. And I got a second pad of it in this big box, and the big box is one that I unboxed during the Zoom call. So if you want to see all the papers that were in it, feel free to watch the replay. But I'm working on the pad that I had bought years ago because it was already unsealed from the plastic. So I thought I'd leave the other one for once I use this one up. And I went back and I looked at what it was that had inspired me to buy this paper in the first place. And it was something from John Muir Laws. He was trying to show people how to use this paper. His technique is to outline the drawing shapes, and he does all nature stuff. So he was showing people how to do a leaf in this one particular tutorial and said, go around the outside edges with 1 micron. He recommended an 0.8. I used a 0.2 for both the lines around the outside edges and the veins. And then he said to step down in the veins to something thinner. I thought this worked pretty well, but I might change my mind on something else that's sized differently than this for other projects. But the thing that he said to use with it is black colored pencil instead of graphite. And I think the reason is because colored pencil is going to be harder than a graphite pencil, or at least harder than my graphite pencil that was on my desk because it was a 9B, very soft one. And that ended up kind of depositing a little bit of the pigment into the valleys. And you need something that's going to sit up on top. The other thing I figured out with this was not to sharpen my pencil the way I do when I'm using textured papers and I'm trying to fill in those gaps. Because here you don't want to fill in the gaps. If you want a variance in value, then you just really ease up on the pencil pressure and make it very light when you want to get in lighter areas. And if you want to make something a little darker, just go over it a couple times, but don't use too much pressure because then you'll lose that stippled look. So that's about all I've learned about the paper, but I thought I would tell you the story about how this paper came into my life in this big box, because it's kind of a funny story about NAMTA. It stands for the, I think, National Artist Materials Trade Association. I think that's it. And they do these shows where retailers can come and see all the products so they know what to buy for their stores. They place orders there. And I was there demonstrating the pigment pens for the Statler booth. But during my breaks, I would walk around and, see what else was out there. And at one point, I walked by this booth that had a little wall on one end of it that had these sketchbooks in it. And it said B paper on the sign there. And they were all sketchbooks. I'd used tons of them over my career, long history of using their products. And so I stopped in to talk to the guy who was standing there. He wasn't talking to a customer, so I felt like I could interrupt him. And I said, "Hey, I have a burning question. It's kind of weird." I said, "Was there a fire at the plant, the bee paper plant, in the early 80s? And he looked at me kind of surprised and he goes, yeah, there was. But the woman who owned the company rebuilt the plant and kept it going. And then when she retired, we ended up buying her plant. We ended up buying the brand and everything, and we've kept it going since then." And I was like, wow, okay, that's amazing. Because when I had heard back in the 80s, and I'm talking like 82, 83 or something, I think it was, I had heard way back then about this fire. I don't remember how I heard about it, but I went into a panic because this bee paper that I had been using during my college career was recommended by my illustration professor. And she said, "This is the best stuff for colored pencil. Hands down, you must use this." And I spent years learning her technique with this paper. And I suddenly saw my art career flash before my eyes. Oh my goodness. The plant burned down and, we didn't have the internet. I couldn't just look up on the internet whether or not bee paper was rebuilding. I had no idea. So I did what any self-respecting, panicking artist would do, and I took all of the money that I could scrape together and I bought as many pads of that paper as I could. And these were not small pads. I bought 19 by 24 pads of this paper. A lot of them. It had to be at least a dozen, I think, 10 or 12 at minimum. And I have had them all these years. I have carried them cross country. When I bought them, I wanted to keep them all nice and not let the edges, the corners get dinged. So I bought a special portfolio, a pleather heavy-duty portfolio to keep them in so that I could haul them around all over the place. I thought this was going to be what I would use for the rest of my career, and I treated them like gold. Because, when you're young and you spend a significant chunk of money on something, you're not willing to part with that thing, and that was me with that paper. I have hauled it from one side of the country to the other. I have taken it upstairs. I have hauled it downstairs. I have looked for places that I could shove it into a closet to keep it safe. I have gone through extraordinary lengths on behalf of these pads of paper, only to find out, of course, that everybody else is still developing all kinds of papers, and there's other papers that I liked a little bit better than that particular one, but it was still precious. It was still like gold to me because of the memory of having really spent my little tiny life's fortune on buying all this paper. But over the last number of years, I realized I couldn't die with this paper still in existence. I had to start using it. And I did. I found other projects and I was using it for other things and stuff, which was fine. And over the last decade or two, I guess, I have finally gotten down toward the end of it. And I had one pad left that I knew had about 3 or 4 sheets in it. The other pads, I had even saved the cardboard and even the yellow covers on some of them, just because I would always throw the end of the thing. Once I used up the pad, I would throw it in this pile I keep of cardboard that's good for packing up art when I sell it, or making signs to go to protests, or yard sale signs, all different kinds of uses for big cardboard like that, because it's good stuff. Well, I knew that I had one pad that had a couple sheets of paper left in it. That was the last of it. There wasn't any more after that. And just for old time's sake, I thought I kind of probably should have some more paper in that drawer, because what am I going to do without it now? And so I asked him, what is the replacement for this pad of paper? And, he said, well, what's the number on it? And I don't know, it's at home. And he said, well, if I have the number, I can tell you what what paper we have now that replaces that paper. And I said, well, I don't know, it has a yellow cover. And in his most New Jersey way, he said, we've never had paper with a yellow cover. That can't be B paper. We don't have yellow covers on our paper. It's like, you have yellow covers. I have had them in my possession for years, decades, since the 80s. Oh my goodness. And we went round and round about it. And I said, fine, I'll bring it in tomorrow and you can see it. So I went to my drawer and I got it out and I took it with me the next day and, walked into the booth. He wasn't there, but there's these other like 5 guys from Jersey, all these salesmen standing in the center of the booth. And I walked in and I had this giant pad under my arm and I just kind of looked at them and kind of smiled, and all of them but one just kind of looked at me like, who are you and what do you want? Because I had on a badge that said I was a demo artist. And, demo artists have no stature at shows like this. It's retailers they want to see. But this one guy was looking at me and, I was looking in his direction because he was the only one giving me any kind of an interested look. And I said, hey guys, I have a piece of history to show you. And I turned the pad around and held it out in front of me. And the guy who recognized something was going on, just his eyes popped and his mouth fell open. And the other guys were like, what is that? They're like, who are you and what do you want? And I said, this is a piece of your history. This has been in my possession since the early 80s. And I told him the story about having all these pads of paper. Well, it turns out that Dino was the guy who was giving me the look. And he said, I need that pad of paper. And he even said, I send you the money to ship it to me when you got the paper done, because I need that. I want to frame it for my office. And I was like, that's wild for him to recognize that this is a little piece of their history. So it's kind of cool. Well, I made him a deal because I was thinking quick on my feet. I said, okay, I tell you what, I will give it to you right now. You can just take it with you when you pack your booth up and then go frame it. Do me a favor, take a picture of it when you get it framed, because I would love to see, what it looks like in your office. And I said, but what I also would like is for you to send me some paper to replace it. And I truly felt like I was doing some kind of a deal in New York. It just reminded me of living back there, because he said, don't you worry, we hook you up. We're going to hook you up. Now you get her number and you get her card, you give her your information, and we'll get you a box. We take care of you. And I just was trying really hard not to bust out laughing because it felt like a movie. It really did. And it was great. They were really fun. And they sent me a big stack of sketchbooks and paper pads. And some of them I've used before on a regular basis. Some of them I get to try out. I'm kind of excited about that. My verdict on this stippling paper is, at least for first impressions, it's very, very nice. I love Stipple Texture. I love the look of it. And when I was in college, one of those pieces of Bristol plate, that 19 by 24, I did a huge drawing in Sharpie pens of a deer. It's like just like this buck had big antlers on it. I don't remember a whole lot about it, except that my parents fought over it. It was actually in the divorce settlement. So they really liked it. I don't know whatever happened to it. It disappeared. However, it had good memories for me of having pleased my parents with one of my college artworks. Another drawing that I did was also on that Aquabee Bristol plate, and it was done a few years ago. My Miles Davis piece. And that one was huge and ginormous, and it did take a lot to just make all those dots with pen and ink. And, I did some washes with black, but it was a lot of stippling. So if you want to go see that one, suffer with me through it, baby. But get yourself some of this stippling paper if you want to do smaller drawings. This just gives you such a nice, even type of texture without having to do all those little dang dots. I just really enjoyed the process So I could definitely highly recommend this paper. It's kind of cool. And I will be trying something in color at some point too, because I think that would be really interesting to see, can you get colors to mix by putting, you know, dots of color next to each other in that way. I don't know if that will really work or not, but I want to try it and see. Because, you know, I'm a weirdo color nerd and I need to give myself challenges. So look for this paper to come back to this YouTube channel at some point in the near future. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, why don't you leave me some eyeballs in your comment this time, and I will see you again next time, because I'm always coming back with more art. And maybe next time I'll come back with fussied up hair and makeup. I'll see you then. Bye.